really need either the PPP program or the EIDL loan. What we're finding is that because there are light guardrails around these programs, most business owners are thinking that they qualify for both, when in reality they may qualify for only one.
Interesting distinction. Gary, it seems to sort of defy logic, if you will, that we are in a time of incredible economic peril. Much of the country is shut down. 22 million people have applied for unemployment benefits, and the Dow's had its best 2 weeks since 1930.
First off, the market is a forward-looking mechanism, but there's something else at work, and that is a central bank that is basically in the midst of and promised to inject $8 trillion. That's over 2 years of our taxes, and just out of thin air to put in. Basically, it's heading into the markets, giving the hedge funds and the big guys, the levered people, some what I would call wind at their backs, and that's what I think you are seeing. But of course, there is the confidence that we may get past this sooner rather than later. And look, I'm the biggest bull in history longer term. I'm just not so sure shorter term, and maybe the market's a little bit ahead of itself here. But so far, market's acting great.
You make a great point, though, in terms of who the Fed is really bailing out here, is the leveraged hedge funds and some of the other big groups who took enormous risks. If you think about some of the other industries that are getting bailed out now and the risks that they took and didn't save for a rainy day. Here's what President Trump said yesterday about needing funding for the PPP.
Essentially, we're waiting for $250 billion, and it's a small amount of money relative to what it represents, because it represents small businesses, it represents them staying in business. And when you look at it, people don't know, small businesses represent approximately 50% of the power of our business enterprises.
Jared, this is an important point, because the PPP doesn't do a lot for small business. It's basically a pass-through from the government to the employees of small businesses. 25% or less is left around to be able to pay your rent and perhaps some utilities. But this is not bridging the capital that small business needs to pay off their other business loans, to buy new equipment, to deal with the spoiled inventory if they're a restaurant, etc.
Yeah, that's right. We're seeing right now that the PPP program is really based upon keeping employees working for another 8 weeks so that unemployment really doesn't spike and continue to drive up, where working capital is really needed today to continue to run the business. We're seeing a lot of our business owners have become a lot smarter around running their business with reducing their fixed expenses, but nevertheless, access to capital is very important, and setting up a safety net now more than ever would be the most beneficial.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. We obviously got cut short in terms of the vice president's speech, but for some reason, I think these problems are going to stick around for a while, so there'll be lots to talk about in the coming weeks. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Kristen?